Hi there, folks. Good day again, and welcome to another Team Talk. And I'm really pleased to say I've got Kim Diath from that fabulous business, 3R, who are relatively new members to Team. Or is it a year now, Kim?
Not quite, but yeah,
Not quite
not
a
too
year,
far off.
but
Yep.
well respected in the marketplace for the support you give to recruitment businesses, specifically in the funding space and the support and compliance you put behind that. We've got a really good subject matter today, ready to scale, winning, growing and profiting with contract recruitment. And it's after my own heart. You know, in 2010, when I bought Principal People, we were 100% perm business. And, you know, we jumped forward 10 years. When we exited, we were about a third contract. And when we started negotiations with our acquirer, they offered us a multiple of 4. But because what we emphasized the fact our contract book was growing, in the end, that offer was in addition to 50% more in terms of our earnout.
Amazing.
So
yeah.
It's a beautiful way of building something of real value, but also not letting other agencies in the door, because most of the work we did on contract was with the same clients we did on perm. So give us a bit of an update, give us a bit of an overview of you and 3R so that people understand your background and also your voice from how you come from, you know, for this subject matter.
Of course, yeah, no worries at all. So I'm a director of 3R here, overseeing our client experience. So I'm involved in everything from bringing new clients on board, even marketing and talking to clients, all the way through kind of sales and onboarding, and then ongoing account management and always looking at all important customer retention as well. I've been with the business since the very beginning. So I've worked for 3R just over 10 years now, and seen the business grow and evolve over that time, as has my role and responsibilities within the company. But yeah, always coming at it from a kind of recruiter perspective and angle. So prior to working at 3R, I worked in recruitment for nearly 10 years as well. Mostly within the built environment sector.
Yeah, really well, great preparation and support. But 3R itself, explain their position in the market, the products services you offer, and a typical client to 3R.
Yep, definitely. So we are providing back office services, tech and funding to recruitment agencies, mostly SME recruitment businesses working within the STEM sectors are who we partner with. And we are providing back office functions for them. So we've got our tech, our back office platform. It's our own technology that we've developed and continue to evolve and grow with businesses in mind, and our wraparound team that sit around that from our head office in Southampton. So most of us are from an ex-recruitment or a finance or funding background. So we've got some really good expertise within the team for our clients to be able to draw upon and lean on when they're dealing with all sorts of weird and wonderful questions and queries, and considering new areas and new territories as well that they might be moving into. So for businesses that are sticking to perm, say for example, looking to grow out into contract, maybe businesses that are working with sort of RPO type clients or MSP clients. And then also what we're seeing sort of more recently is businesses that are looking to have that real consultancy arm to them. So proper outside of our 35 kind of consultancy project-based support to end clients, where we're supporting them with that as well.
Is that the statement of works type projects?
Yep, exactly that. So we've got a statement of works tool within the back office, and that is really growing, in favour with our clients as a a new offering that they can put out to
It's a
market.
great differentiator. I've got some questions for you, Kim. Hopefully you can answer them all.
I hope so.
But hitting on the subject matter, why is now the right time for agencies to invest in building a contract book?
Yeah. Okay. So I think there are a few things that would lean itself to this. So the market itself, the market has been uncertain for many businesses over quite a long extended period of time, and quite tough for some clients. So I think that the volatility in the market actually lends itself very well to contract resource and the opportunity of contract growth. So, if businesses are reluctant to invest in permanent hires, then they're more likely to consider taking contract in order to deliver on the projects or work that they have at hand. So filling really that short-term delivery need that they've got. Also, I think there's a real strategic advantage to ensuring that you've got a contract desk, and your sort of story still resonates now. It's still very relevant. Of having that reoccurring revenue within the business really does give the business an uplift in terms of sort of valuation, if you're thinking about the long-term future of the business and the positioning of yourself for the business as well. And I think the other thing to point here is just trends in the market. We've got a really good overview of hundreds of different recruitment agencies operating in many different professional services, mostly white collar, mostly STEM sectors, but that's a very broad range of recruitment businesses. And we are seeing that contract is growing. Now, it's not growing by wild numbers, but it is steadily growing. And in a market that is quite volatile, down to political and geographical problems that are going on across economies and the world itself, we are seeing the trend of contractors growing and scaling. So that's really good. And also businesses moving into different territories. So I think there's a lot of opportunity out there in quite at times volatile market. But I think it's we're coming out of that volatility a bit. So I think I'm hoping that we really have ridden out the worst of the sort of tumultuous times with it.
Well, you're being optimistic. I think the feedback that we've had from some of our members, because a bit like you, we got 500 plus. We get feedback so we can get a real sense check on what's happening in the market. There is nervousness with our members, clients to hire. There's no doubt about that. And with some of the new changes proposed with the ERB and national insurance being at 15% now, day one rights coming, the flexibility of having a contract desk on projects or simply without making commitment to start with, having a contract is a great option.
It's very appealing, right? So they've still got to deliver, haven't they? They've still got to deliver on that work that they have, that they've taken on, and it's crucial to their businesses to be able to do so. So they will need that resource in one way or another.
Contractors, in my limited experience, have a focus though. If they know they're on a 3, 6 month or a year contract, there's sort of quite an impetus with contractors or with a contractor's mind to go, I've got to make an impact quickly. So there's, if you get a true contractor and he or she has been doing that type of work before, they sort of jump in fast, try and understand some of the key challenges within a new role, and they're keen to impose themselves fairly quickly with some outcomes. So the contractor mindset is really positive and can have a really positive effect on businesses that have normally had perm. So it's a good sell for recruitment companies positioning someone who's thinking about placing someone maybe perm but is nervous about a longer term commitment. So recruitment companies can talk about the mindset of a contractor who comes in to go, right, what's we're
Get
not
stuff
working
done.
here? What can
Yeah.
I change? I want to have an impact quickly.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
definitely.
got a different question for you now. What's the biggest mistake you see recruiters make when trying to launch or scale contract? It's worrying for people who've been perm forever, and so just what's the biggest mistake you see?
Yeah, I think it's probably more of an approach or a series of maybe little things that might get overlooked if they're inexperienced from a contract perspective. So I
Yeah,
think having partners or people that you can rely on and trust to talk things through and discuss things with is really important for anybody embarking on it. I think it will be the less sexy stuff, right, that recruiters are likely to overlook, that are around the setup of contracts, the compliance aspects, the risk of doing business with the end client that they're looking to do business with. These things aren't so appealing, but they are important not to be overlooked. So I think having an eye on those areas that are less about recruiting and more processy and more administrative and compliance based are something that get overlooked if they're not leaning on a partner or somebody to really support them with that. And I think the other thing to note here is not being focused and driven on it and sticking to a specialism. So trying to be generalist in terms of your contract supply will likely lead you to clients that aren't committed to you, and maybe get you drawn into doing the wrong kind of business. So I think having a focused, clear strategy on what it is you're going after, the specialist areas that you know and that you're currently working in, because you want to position yourself as an expert in that area, right? That none of this is new stuff. That if it's a consultant that's making a switch to perm, from perm to opening up that contract book, they already will be an expert in the area that they're working in and operating in. So continuing that trend is a really important, not trying to provide a more generalized service or support, I think would be the biggest mistake. So don't overlook compliance and risk and the boring kind of aspects of it. Lean on a trusted advisor or partner to help you with it, and really focus on being a specialist and delivering value to your contractors and your clients.
The T's and C's are different as well. That's key. If you're a team member, we've got those on so you can download those and make sure you've got a copy of those if you're moving from perm to contract. But they are different. But you could advise as well, can't you, Kim?
Totally.
Well.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, making sure that you've got people in that you're partnered with people that are invested and interested in your business. It's not transactional, it's not hands off. Particularly if you're an SME, you want to be able to rely on people and really get good value from them.
Yeah, cool. Right. Question 3. Here we go. Now, more putting you on the spot again. For an agency starting from scratch with contract, what are the first 3 steps they should take?
Okay. I think the first one would be that you want to build it to last. So, pay some attention at the beginning about what the process is, how it needs to work. Ensure that you're really crystal clear on the questions that you need to ask your clients in order to provide a really smooth experience for them from a timesheet invoicing sign-off perspective, from a payment and payrolling perspective, but also for your contractors. Ensure you understand what the experience looks like for them and what you want it to be. And you want to be market leading with that. You don't want to be necessarily having to put your contractors on extended payment terms when there are suppliers out there or recruiters out there that will have contractors paid within 2 days, for example. So you want to do a bit of research and make sure that you're really setting yourself up with an exceptional partner, provider, or in-house service if you're putting it together yourself, and that you're building it to last long term. Number two, I would say that you want to be looking at your retaining, engaging with and retaining customers long term. So your clients that you're working with, think about how you can really engage with those clients, offer value-added services to those clients to support them with any challenges that they're facing in their businesses around recruitment and hiring, so that you can retain those customers for longer, and build reoccurring revenue with those customers. So building out, both perm and contract opportunities and mapping those clients effectively. And then I think don't overlook contractor satisfaction in this as well. If you don't have the contractors, or you've got bad contractors engaged and out representing you and your business, then that will have a negative impact on you. So don't overlook that. Make sure that you're engaging with strong contractors, you understand their background, you're making sure you're doing your due diligence on them and their setup, but that you've got you're able to provide a leading service to them as well. So that customer satisfaction from a contractor perspective, are they getting paid accurately and correctly and on time? That is going to mean that they are going to want to work with you for longer and not jump to another agency.
I think I'll just share something that what our contract head did. When he was at Principal People, Naz Bad. Naz was brilliant at developing some really loyal contractors, and he put some manager level, but one particular individual he placed 9 times over a period of 5 years.
Amazing.
And when he was in a management position, albeit contract, if he needed more resources or skill sets, he would come back to us as the project manager and hire people, either perm or contract, to deliver some of the stuff that was going on. We were working with sort of big construction companies on projects, or a lot of social housing businesses that had to clean up their health and safety processes. So if there was a big project on and there was a problem, we put this guy in as health and safety manager on a contract for a year. Several times he'd come back and hire, because of the relationship and understanding what it needed to make the contract work. He would often hire people perm or contract with his authority and autonomy. So
it's amazing, isn't it? Because they're representing you in there, and they're helping you grow out your business because they know what needs to be delivered internally.
Yeah, well, Naz and the contractor just built up such a great relationship. They really understood each other, and it was a constant revenue earner for the business over 5 years. So contractor relationships are absolutely vital. So great point. What does a healthy I'm going to go to this other question first. How do you spot high growth sectors before anyone else does? Can you give some of our listeners some tips on that? Because where does the opportunity lie? Because it might not be in the sector they're working, but it might be in a slightly adjacent sector or pivot.
Yeah,
so
totally.
People can make that journey.
I think provided you're staying true to the sector that you're supporting, then that's really crucial. So make sure that you're in the know, that you've got available to you market insights, that you make sure you're setting aside a bit of time each week to stay up to date on trends and things that are happening within the industry that you work in, reading publications, general news, and what's going on. Being part of a community like Team, really supports that and champions that kind of sharing of information and insights as well. So I think that's important. Obviously, they've got the REC and APSCO for a lot of data and information, which is always really helpful for all of us in the industry. So I think, but depending on your niche, there will be other variations of this that will be digital, mostly now. So and in-person events, also making sure you're attending any trade shows or exhibitions that are relevant to your industry, and just keeping up to date with what's moving and happening. Having key people within those within the industries that you're operating in, that you're leaning on, that you're engaging with and speaking to find out on the ground about what's going on, what projects are being rolled out, what's due to be rolled out, who's tendering for what, who's going for what, so that you can really stay sort of nimble and act quickly on that. I think the other key thing to think about is emerging sectors, so complementary sectors. You mentioned it, that lie just adjacent to what you're doing. Where is your industry headed in the new AI revolution that we're all sort of, thrust into now? What does that mean for your industry? You might not know, and people might not have the answers, but people might have opinions and ideas, and what do they mean to you? But I think leveraging relationships is really crucial to this, to spotting sectors and keeping your feet on the ground. You've got clients and contractors that are out there working and operating in these sectors. They should know, they will be in the know. And if you've got good relationships and rapport with them, then, and you're keeping in regular contact with them and asking the right questions, then, there's no reason why you shouldn't also be involved in those conversations. So I think you've got to keep your feet on the ground, really, and be in a position to be able to react. Anything changes.
Another tip that we've shared with a lot of our members is, if you've got the paid version of ChatGPT, use the plus drop down for deep insights, because with the right prompts, you can get really up-to-date information from the net and from various sources on what's happening in your market that others may not be using. If you've got clients in your vertical, they won't know what's going on in the wider market unless they're using tools like that. But that can give you real opportunity. I mentioned it earlier, we were in the fascinating world of health and safety recruitment, but the two markets that really cooked for us, because they had projects, were construction, because things get built and it's got a time scale. And I mentioned earlier the social housing space, where there was always change, there was always risk. You had the Grenvilles of the world caused significant increase of investment, and for all the right reasons, for health and safety environments.
Yeah, definitely.
So loads of project work came out of social housing because of that. We stayed close to that, and that was keeping our eye on the two areas in the health and safety world that had constant project work. So just a tip for that. Right, here we go. The other question I tried to ask you. What does a healthy, profitable contract book actually look like in numbers or ratios? What do you need to get going and aim for?
Yeah, I think that is a tricky one to answer, because everybody's different. We could be working with clients, and I'm thinking about sort of our existing and historical client base over the years. We could be working with clients that are two guys, or in an office. We could be working with a team of 20. So I think there's it's quite difficult to say exactly what people should be going for in terms of numbers, but I think focusing on growth is the most important thing, really. Having clear strategies towards growth, making sure that those strategies are aligned with the business goals. So right from the top, and that still matters, even if there's only a team of 2 or 5 of you delivering. Where are you going and where are you headed as a business, and what do you need to do, and bringing that back. What do you need to do in order to have that, all the way back down to what outputs are relative. And everybody's got their own ratios that they work to. We have them internally ourselves, from a kind of sales capacity, also from delivery, but looking at what those are typically for you, and always trying to improve on them and analyze them and really pick them apart, being quite critical of what you're doing, so that you've got the best environment to encourage growth. I think in terms of fees, there are, fees have altered a little bit, I think, but not massively. Average fees across the client bases, are still typically anything between sort of 15 and 22% for the UK. RPOs sometimes can be slightly different if they've got higher volumes, so they could be slightly lower, so sort of maybe 12 to 18%. But within those ballpark figures from a fee perspective. In the US market, it operates quite differently. The fees are significantly higher, that you can look to be charging anything between sort of 20 and 40%. We had some at 45%.
Wow.
In real specialist niche areas. So I think that hopefully is helpful for people to know. But I think there are some businesses as well that are looking at like tiered pricing, tiered pricing models that are focusing on the value that you're providing that end client, depending on the tier of service that they're having for you. So rather than it being a one-stop shop of every client gets everything, whether they're working on a 10%, you're working on 10% margin, versus a 20% margin, you've got to be looking at those and the approach to those clients slightly differently as well. So yeah, a few things to think about, I think, in answer to that question.
Just a little bit of feedback from us, and of course, I left the business at the end of 2020 at Principal People. They're still doing great on contract now, but the contract team was getting 21% average margin, whereas our contingent perm was 18. Yeah, so it was a really good revenue. They were slightly higher results in our retained offering for senior management on the perm side, but contingency perm was always being beaten by contract by 3% generally across the average. So it was a really good business. A question I had was, what sort of terms are people putting contractors in for? I mentioned earlier 3-6 months a year. We had quite a few people on 6 months to 1 year contracts. I'll cover a little bit some of the shorter term stuff later, but I just wonder what your clients are. What's the term for a contractor in the market?
Many sometimes are in kind of an ongoing type scenario, but equally 6 months to a year seems quite reasonable. But then we have seen a slight increase in the real interim / fractional type contract worker as well. So as long as you've got a solution that can accommodate all different types of contract workers, so that you're not cutting your sort of self off from business that's out there to be had, I think that's important to note. But yeah, I think 6 months is quite standard.
Yeah, cool, excellent. Right, moving on. How can recruiters build strong long-term relationships with contractors and stop them being poached? So if you get one, you want to keep them because they're gold dust, aren't they?
Definitely.
For information as well as immediate revenue.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing here really is relationship, and genuine connection and relationship. Having somebody that really does have an interest in people and what drives them and what motivates them and what interests them and what they don't like, and everything else. I think you've got to be a real people person to be able to forge those kinds of relationships and add value then to the contractors themselves, add support where relevant, you know. And I think a way of cementing that is, if you're working with a contractor, is really delivering on what you say you're going to deliver on. You know, if you're going to call them on X date, be there for that call, don't miss it. If you know, keeping in that regular contact with them, meeting them face to face if and where possible. But when they're working on contract with you, is delivering an exceptional service to them as a contract worker, ensuring they are getting paid accurately, ensuring they are getting paid fast, and that they, you know, any issues that they, questions they might have, are dealt with really quickly and clearly. So I think if you're covering off the relationship side of things, adding value and delivering on what you say you're going to do, and let's face it, you know, getting paid accurately and on time is a key, you know, a key part of your relationship of engaging with a contract worker, then that's really going to help them stay with you long term. But you know, it's a competitive space, isn't it? So you've got to be, you've got to always be working on it. I don't think you can rest on your laurels with any of it.
Yeah. Naz and Max, principal people, used to get the contractors, certainly in the Greater London area, for quarterly beers in the evenings. And
I remember doing that at Matchtech.
Yeah. Well, apart from the relationship thing, it was also fantastic wealth of knowledge about what's happening in the different, what's happening in our clients, you know, because there was often opportunity came out of those discussions, and they were happy to discuss those in a, you know, a friendly environment. So it was, you know, a few beers was a small investment apart from time to find
out. Goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your go-to strategy for landing the first few contract clients? And I've got a tip as well I'll give, but that my guys picked up, which I didn't think of. But you could give a couple of tips or guidance on that, it'd be grand.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the easiest and first starting point that I would use is looking at the existing perm clients that you're working with to identify any contract needs or opportunities across the business. So really doing that client mapping piece of mapping out the key points of contact, the key areas, the projects, looking at timescales and dates of when things need to be done by. It would be a starting point for me. Also, on that perm sort of side of things, and on those, you know, it might not even be perm, right? It might just be existing client relationships that you have. Looking at whether or not there's a potential to convert perm to contract. And I remember at Matchtech, this was something that we did, that was done quite a lot, and would often upset the perm consultants if their jobs got taken by the contract consultants and converted. But you know, looking at whether or not, right, we're hiring you a perm person, but you know, they're like gold dust. This is what we're doing in order to fulfill that permanent need for you. As an interim, can we look at putting a contractor in position? You know, if not, then when is it going to be time critical for them to have somebody in that post delivering on what they need? Making sure that you've got that pool of candidates that there is there and ready for you to utilise at short notice as well. So really client mapping, looking at perm or existing clients to do that. Then looking at the key competitors of those clients. So looking at all the other competitors out there, looking at where contractors have been working previously, gaining points of contact from contractors, either verbally or via LinkedIn or CVs. And then, you know, I suppose the last thing is just building out a brand new desk, and people do it, right? And it happens in businesses. But I think for landing the first few, that's where I would start. Yeah.
One of the guys, it was their idea, not mine or our learning and development coach, said for our perm people, especially for in management roles, bearing in mind we were in health and safety, so there's risk attached to not having a starter. Sometimes it would take, with a company 8 weeks to get them to do 2 or 3 interviews, choose the right person. If that manager had a 3-month notice period with the current employer, there's going to be 5 months before that individual starts. So what the perm guys would often say is, look, would talk to the clients about the sourcing time and the interview process, and then B, the what might be the process for giving notice and 3-month notice period with senior managers. You're not going to get someone for between 3 and 5 months. What's going to happen to the business in that period? And because there was commission kicked back to the perm guys if they referred, can I get you to have a conversation with one of our contract guys just to see who they've got available should you need someone within that period? And I reckon we got 1 in 4 contractors that way. Brilliant. Just by asking the question. Now, depending on your market and depending on what's available, and if you've got perm people that take a while to, you've got 3. My son's just getting a new job. He's had 7 interviews for one role, and it takes ages. And so the process is long. Then there's a notice period. It can. People start stressing if you can get someone in to fix something. If it's a key role where the lack of an individual could have an impact on the organisation, that's a good opportunity.
It's a win-win, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, is. I'm going to talk about cash flow now. So it's always a worry with contract. With perm, if you can get them in, there's a big chunk of cash. But the opposite happens with contract in lots of ways. The cash flow is a worry with contract, and it makes perm people nervous. So what's the smartest way to stay cash positive and reduce risk with that?
Yeah, you're right. It does. With like you say, with perm invoicing, it's very up and down. But
it is 100% of revenue, not the net fee income. If you're getting 20% margins, you've got 80% payout before you might get paid. That's
exactly that. You need a lot of cash, and you need to have the ability to process and manage a lot of cash. If you are doing it yourself or considering doing it yourself, you need a team to do that, or you need to be taking maybe sort of directors or managing directors out of the sales side of things and the BD side of things so much, and moving them into a more operational type role. So there's a lot to consider with that, and I think the smartest ways to manage it and approach it are thinking about risk and compliance and getting paid quickly. So first things first, I would say credit checking the businesses that the end clients you want to do business with, doing that early on in the process as soon as possible to make sure it's the type of end client that you want to be engaging with, and whether or not you've got longevity with that client and the opportunity to do more business with them. So if they have a very positive or good credit rating, then you know that they've got that capability ahead of them. If it's risky, or there are real red flags with it, you'll want to know about that. That will impact the business that you're able to do with them. It could impact even one contractor placement, which could leave a very bad taste in a lot of people's mouths with it. So I think it's important not to overlook and do that as early on in the process. It enables you to manage risk and also gives you the opportunity to say no to bad business. So I think you don't want to be doing everything that comes your way necessarily without checking it out first. Looking at reducing debtor days is important and key really to keeping cash in the business and cash coming into the business as quickly as possible. So, ideally not signing into client terms of 90 days, for example, and negotiating on that as a matter of course always, not just accepting client terms without negotiating on them. And that's a really, can be a tricky thing, I think, maybe for some more junior consultants coming into it that may not have been necessarily trained as well in this aspect of it. They're more looking at the sales and the BD of engagement with a new client and taking on a vacancy and engaging with a candidate pool, but really being able to negotiate in your favor, or at least attempting to, on those payment terms is very important to the cash flow within the business. And then having a slick back office function that ensures that everybody's in the know on all the key information that they need to know at that point. So have you confirmed everything of the deal that you've done in order to ensure that invoicing and payments run smoothly and it all operates seamlessly behind the scenes? Have you asked the question, is a PO required in order to invoice?
It's not one invoice, is it? That's the danger.
Yeah, that's it. It's continue invoices going out. That cash is mounting up, and meanwhile you're paying contract workers potentially. You want to remain. You want to engage with contract workers and pay them as quickly as possible, because in the market they can. We pay our contract workers within 2 working days of an authorised timesheet. That's really fast. There are no deadlines, there are no missed deadlines either. And in order to compete with that kind of service offering, you need to have a slick operation behind the scenes, moving cash and payrolling and collecting your cash and paying you quickly. So I think that those key things are what you need to be paying attention to: credit checking, risk, debtor days, and making sure you're getting paid quickly.
Yeah. And you sit behind, that's what 3R do, don't they?
That is, yeah.
That's in essence what you do.
It is.
The other thing I'd say is if you've got consultants or the bosses are negotiating with hiring managers or execs in the business and they agree the terms, it is good then to say, will you now introduce me to your accounts team so that I can start a relationship with them? This is not one invoice. This is going to be regular. We want to work with them with their processes so that we understand how they work. That is important. It is different to a one-off.
It is, and you can't just stop at that. You can't just fill the job and then forget about it.
I think it is important to get the contract consultants know this, if they've done it for a while, that if a perm consultant is moving into contract, he or she's got to start building relationships or pass on to someone else in the business to build relationships with the purchase ledger and how things are paid, because it's going to be regular. And it's fine to chase a perm invoice 3 or 4 times and then get it done and then the problem's solved. But if they're weekly invoices for 52 weeks and there's a slip, it takes some unpicking, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can do. It can take some unpicking, and I think it's you want to be providing a really slick, smooth service so that you can grow. You want to be able to do the deal, ask the right questions, get it going, have 100% trust and faith that it's being run as it should, so that you can get on and continue to grow it and scale it, rather than having your time dragged away from that because there's this missing or that missing, or you haven't asked that question of, accounts actually only, they shut off their invoicing on X date and you didn't know about it. So, we have to work with clients and support clients in all these different nuances and ways. And that's why I think it's really important to, if you're outsourcing it, you need to be able to talk to these people who are running this operationally for you. It's crucial.
We had a contract with a London borough. I won't mention their name. And of course, when you're dealing with a council, you think, the money's guaranteed. No problem. We have 3 people in there, but if you because we didn't ask all those questions about what happens with, who the accounts. So we learnt by our mistakes, really. Who's bought ledger? When's the best time to speak to them? They were remote working. And they were remote working before COVID as well. So, and they weren't in every day. So it was almost impossible to talk to them. In the end, we had 100 days worth of debt with 3 contractors. It was scary. It was a nightmare to talk to people. So if you are dealing with a government body, and it might not be a government body, so I don't want to point the finger completely at them.
No, it could be an RPO, because they can be quite faceless sometimes. It's just understanding it and making sure that you're clear on it.
At the beginning, in finding out all the who are the stakeholders in the accounts and finance area as well.
And if they're on holiday, who's next and what's their number? It's like, all those questions. So we do quite a lot of sort of support. We've got pro formas and guidance for people that are fairly new to contract in making sure that they're, asking all the right questions to ensure it runs as smoothly as possible.
Okay. What compliance blind spots do agencies often overlook when scaling contract, and what are the consequences?
I think, this follows on really from some of the points just made, but there are, around credits and then the associated risk. So, I think businesses can sometimes overlook doing credit checks. We talk to many recruiters that are clients or not clients, and some of them don't as standard, even with their perm business that they're doing. They don't bother to do credit checks, and I think that's something that really is overlooked, because, like I mentioned earlier, you need to make sure that you're engaging with the right clients. They're taking up your time at the end of the day. You need to make sure that time is going to have some return on it. And then thinking about credit, it's the associated risk of that. So if you do decide to, take it on the chin and you're going to take on liability on behalf of that client. So if they have very restrictive credit or even no credit, and you're going to take that on regardless and engage contractors working there, then that's a lot of risk to put on your shoulders on behalf of someone else, when potentially you may not have bad debt protection insurance in place to protect you if that client were to go bust or if anything were to go wrong. So I think that's a bit of a blind spot that can really impact an SME particularly, or shut it down potentially as well. I think IR35, the misclassification or the mismanagement of IR35 and not having IR35 reporting or capability behind you, should you require it for any kind of audit purpose in the future, is something that could be overlooked, that could, really impact you and cause you problems. So it's mostly around the kind of, the less attractive side of it. Let's face it, it's the compliance, processing, data management, PO management with clients is another one. It is an admin task that needs to be taken on and can really impact getting paid. And let's face it, everybody needs to get paid in this scenario. So not having the right kind of tools to manage the compliance around POs. So making sure you know the spend limits or the end dates and when they're coming up, and you're paying attention and looking at that, is really important. And I think if you get those things right, they lead to smooth operations and far less, you're minimizing the risk to your business as much as possible, which can only put you in the best possible position to grow it and scale it, which is what we're supporting businesses with.
The only thing I'd add with regard to that, what blind spots are there, and something to think about, might not be compliance. If you're putting a contractor into a business that's not used to contractors, they may not get the support they may regard the individual as a bit of a third party, not as part of the team, because they're not used to contractors. So it is important at qualification stage and education stage for the consultant to talk to the business about the difference of managing a contractor, making sure they're onboarded properly, talk to them about the dynamic of a contractor. They want to make an impact quickly. It's project related, and they do need slightly different management. But also, because you're making money on them all the time as they're going, you need to engage with that contractor consistently throughout the contract as a consultant, don't you? And it's not just about getting a perm past their rebate period. It's constant contact to find out what's happening. Is everything working? Not only with the contractor, but with the client. So there's lots more communication on contract ongoing, isn't there?
Definitely. Yeah, you need to be staying close to them. You need to be aware of any timescales and deadlines. You know, if they're engaged for 3 months, then ensure that you're speaking to them prior to that. We built a little tool actually on our contractor portal for contractors to reach out to the agency, as well as a very quick fire. I need you to call me now. We're hiring where I am. There's just little things like that just giving the contractor more opportunity to engage with the recruiter should they need to. So, but you need to have that, you need to have that relationship and that ongoing contractor management there. And I think if you get those things right, then you can use them as USPs as well to engage with contractors and to engage with end clients. If you've got a robust IR35 management tool and reporting structure, should a client ever require it, if a client came to you and said, do you know how I've made the determination on all the contractors that have worked for us for the last 2 years? Have you got a report of what I've done and how it's been done and when? If you've got that, what an upsell that is to be able to provide to end clients. So that real value add of data and information, having those tools is really, really important.
I know a couple of our members shared with me at some of our regional meetings, in order to kickstart some contract work or open more doors, is they've done a playbook on how to develop, how to use contractors to help escalate and grow your business. So they've got a bit of a playbook on, it's mainly for employers that have never used contracting before to run projects, or B, to grow their business in a tough environment. It's perfectly placed now.
Good.
And pushing that playbook out, which is on a PDF, to 100 clients, created 3 or 4 inquiries and projects for businesses. And we're talking about an 8-page playbook with key things. What's different about hiring a contractor? What are the responsibilities? How to engage a contractor differently, how to onboard them, so that you get ROI quickly. So those clever little things with a playbook have been a business creative. It creates
it's a value add,
new
isn't it?
business for people who hadn't thought about.
That's it. Yeah, they're thinking outside the box of how can I support these. Okay,
I got one more question. We got 6 minutes. If you could go back, give your younger self when you're at Matchtech one piece of advice about building a contract book, what would it be?
I would say, and I've touched on this already, build it to last. Have the structure there, and build it so that it's scalable quickly and securely, and minimizing risk. You don't want any barriers to your growth. You want to be turning those 1s and 2 contractors into 3s and 4s, and quickly. So really thinking about scalable solutions built for growth, built to encourage growth, that are taking care of all of the admin, process, compliance side of it for you, and also providing you with real valuable USPs that will elevate your position with contractors and elevate your position with end clients as well. You know, regardless of your size as an SME, you know, you are able to have a really robust and proficient back office processing solution, and the cash available to you to scale. You know, the world's your oyster with it, really. You don't have to be a big corporate
No.
to have that. And in fact, there are advantages to not being a big corporate, to be able to move fast and act quickly, dependent on market conditions. So I think, yeah, make sure that I've got something that's robust and built to last, and that I'm engaging with sort of partners who are, you know, really invested and actually give a shit about what I want to do in life, you know, and how I want to grow it, because that's important. You know, they can't overlook those relationships and what value they bring to you throughout your time of working with people. So yeah, I would say that's important.
A final question. What if you look at some of your clients? What are the sectors? What the sectors that are really doing well at the moment with contractors? You know, what's buzzing for in this tough market?
Yeah. Majority of our clients are sort of operating in STEM sectors, and the areas that are growing are all areas of tech, data, analysts, across all kind of sectors, change and transformation, finance, across different industry areas as well. So yeah, I would say that they're the key ones, really.
And what about the geographies? Is it you mentioned UK, you mentioned US.
And Europe, yeah.
Good. So these are UK businesses doing business abroad. Do they need to put boots on the ground, or are some of them doing it from the UK as well?
No, majority are doing it remotely, not necessarily getting boots on the ground, engaging with partners like us so that they, you know, by proxy have boots on the ground. So no, not necessary. And yeah, a lot of businesses are considering other territories. Europe is a growing area, as is the US as well. But I would think the key thing to note with those areas and territories really is not to overlook the legals or the compliance aspects. So, you know, doing your due diligence on that, not trying to scrimp and fudge stuff to get one or two through. Again, build it to last. Make sure you're doing things properly and engaging with the right partners.
Well, Kim, we did it.
Yay!
It's 13:59. Thank you for where did that come from? That hour went fast.
Really
some
quick.
Great ideas there, some great support. We have a lot of members that give you a lot of referral because of the great stuff you do for them. You're definitely a people-related business, and you understand you're not just a finance support business. You understand the recruitment space, which I think you shared earlier, and that's the feedback I get from our members that are using you. Thank you very much for a great session. Hopefully some of you will have the impetus, energy and ambition to look at contract. It's a great way of de-risking and improving the value of your business. So speak to Kim if you want some more guidance and connect with her. Jahish has put about 55 different connections on there for how to contact you at 3R. I think your email address is up there, the website, your LinkedIn profile. So there's no excuse.
Good
Kim,
stuff. Yeah, happy to talk to anyone. Thank you.
And congratulations on 10 successful years at 3R.
Thank you.
It's your birthday, isn't it? So,
All the best. Thanks ever so much. Bye-bye.
Bye for now. Bye.